All right, so part two to this, the external cues, the three parts of the game, basketball training. So now that we've spoken on the three parts of the game, the layup package, the ball handling skills, and the shooting, ability, we understand that from all these three parts, from your ball handling skills, that doesn't even have to take place on the basketball court, yet it covers such a wide range of the game, right? Because it covers, court speed, and how you move on the basketball court without the ball. It is also a direct indication as well of your shadow dribbling, right, and how you dribble, your shadow dribbling on the basketball court, right. So these things play a part or can potentially extend that direction in terms of your court speed and how you move on the basketball court as well, right? And, spin moves, right? Getting into your spin moves, getting into your spots, getting into your rhythm. All this is ball handling skills, which cover such a wide range of the game already. And it doesn't even have to be on the basketball court. Shooting ability, right? All the different methods and ways that you can shoot the ball and adjust your jump shot, which are very technical, but very crucial as well, right? And, have the highest impact in the game, right? And then the layup package as well, right? Your ability to, hang, lay the ball up, and finish in contact. And, this is what makes you a very much more technically sound basketball player. It makes you that much more of a threat, in all points, because, man, when you have, this sort of thing in your bag, you're inevitably already unstoppable, right? Just through technicalities of just a layup package, right? And proper training, of this, right? So within all these different spaces, your game is built, right? And some of these things don't even have to be trained on the basketball court. For instance, if I wanted to now extend to other things, right? In terms of developing my game, things don't have to be trained on the basketball court. And there's things that you need, like IQ. You need to be smart. Your brain has to be functional enough for you to be able to be able to read and react and perform certain tasks on the basketball court, right? So training your brain in order to read and comprehend information, be coherent, and be mentally cognitive, having some sort of mental cognition, enough to be able to understand everything that's going on, everything that's setting up. And the more fluent your brain is, and the more efficient your brain is, the easier it is to implement the right neurons at the right time, right? Which is probably the biggest thing in basketball, especially at the professional level. It's doing the simple things at accurately at the right time, right? With the right amount of force. So all of that is mental, right? Because even though you train specific functions, whether it be your layup package, your shooting ability, or your dribbling moves, these are neurons. At the end of the day, they're all neurons, and connect back to the peripheral, connect back to the nervous system, right? So that means that the most important thing is not even necessarily what you train; it's how fast these neurons can release, right? How fast and efficient and accurately that they can be released, right? And be released, right? And that's the most important thing. So training your mind, which really doesn't even take place on the basketball court, and basketball court isn't even the best setting for this in terms of in multiple ways, right? Maybe not visually, But in other, in most other ways other than visually, you know, you're training your mind, studying and writing and mathematics and science and all this sort of thing, writing and mental games and all of these sorts of things are building and specifically training neurons, right? Training mental patterns, right? Which is very, very crucial in order for you to be able to fire and implement neurons at the right time. So training is very important, but even more so, it's being able to fire neurons at the correct time, right? However, however, on the basketball court, but you would want to be able to stay on the basketball court as much as possible, simply due to the fact that this is a technical skill and this is a technical function, right? So even more so importantly, it's your ability to stay on the basketball court in order to develop the proper IQ in order to be able to find loopholes and fire and implement whatever you need to implement at the right time. Because back when, like I said before, when dealing with, like I said before, right, the game is trained through visuals, right? Visuals is how the game is trained, which is take place within your peripheral nervous system. So the more you're on the basketball court and the more you're training yourself this way, the more your peripheral nervous system, the more you're aligning or realigning your body and your brain and your mind with the visuals that you see or that you can feel from within your peripheral nervous system, right? And that is the most important part of training, right? That's the most important part of training, right? Is lining your, what you feel from within your peripheral nervous, lining yourself up, with what you feel within your peripheral nervous system based on the visual that you have, right? So that's the most important thing, and being able to continually go back and train this repeatedly over and over and over and over again is within, it creates that sort of progression, right? That's the most important thing. And then, so with that understood, right? This basically just breaks down and shows you the levels in which, in which the game is really implemented and training is really implemented, right? Breaking down from the closed loop command level, right? Dealing, from ball handling skills, shooting ability, for the most part, and your layup package, all closed loop commands. You don't focus on these things in the game, right? These are just things that you just built and trained, right? You know what I'm saying? And that you have with you, right? And they're all trained through the peripheral nervous system. The more you do these things each day, especially shooting, right? You're training within the peripheral nervous, but they're still closed loop commands, right? For the most part. And then on top of these closed loop commands, you're training your mind. You're training your mind to be most elusive and efficient enough to be able to fire the neurons at the correct time, right? In order for these things to be implemented, at the right time with the right accuracy, right? Which is number 2, the second most important thing. But in the functionalities of the game of basketball, right, you have to be able to make reads and know how the game sets up based on the game itself, right? And that's the most important thing we want to talk about, is taking and spending time in the game and spending time on the game that will then allow you to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? So like, as you spend time on the game, and you recognize how things set up, and you know what I'm saying? And as you know and recognize how things set up, you can sort of find and figure out loopholes within how shit sets up and be able to attack based off those loopholes, right? And this is where we're now really get into the nitty gritty of the game. You know what I'm saying? And it's like now, now it's like, based on my experience, like, I can see how things set up, and I could basically manipulate the game, you know what I'm saying, based off of what my body feels. You see what I'm saying? And that's the real kicker. That's the real kicker, right? Because, But anyway, I'm gonna conclude this video right here. Hopefully this is a good video, and people can really understand that, like, the peripheral nervous system, makes reads and makes reactions. You know what I'm saying? The peripheral nervous system is what gets trained, and that's the most important thing. That's the last level of what gets, and that's the most important thing to train, in terms of like in a technical function. Because the longer I stay on the basketball court, the more the more I'm aligning and reinforcing and re-enhancing my ability to my peripheral nervous system, right, on the floor. Because, like I said with visuals, like, the visuals come from within what you feel within your peripheral nervous system, right, the body. So as I stay on the basketball court, I'm always getting better. Like, my peripheral nervous system is always getting more and more and more connected or synchronized to the game and to the technicalities of the game itself as I stay on the basketball court. You know what I'm saying? My peripheral nervous system is getting more and more synchronized to the technicalities of the game, right? It's getting connected more, right? So that means I'm better and better suited and able to find the loopholes within the technicalities of the game itself, right? Just like how we said with the central nervous system and being, and training your mind and your brain to be able to fire off neurons at the correct time based off of just training your mind and, just to be, whether it's mathematics or just, or other type of like mental training, right? Like education and shit. The peripheral nervous system training would be through the actual outlet. And it's like the more time I spend in that joint, the better, you know what I'm saying? The better and more influent and easier it will be for me in order to fire off the right actions or execute the right actions at the right time based off of what I feel, you know what I'm saying, and be able to get the result that I want. And that's what we wanted to really highlight in this video. But anyway, peace, love, man, and you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying, that's going to be the thing to train for real. Like, you know what I'm saying, have fun training with that. And yeah, we out this joint, man.